Hello, movie lovers. Welcome home. My name is Amy Henserling, and you are listening to Watch This List. This is my second Unplugged series focusing on hidden gems. And today I have special guest Matthew Ramsey, who I have met on Letterboxd for, I don't know, it was a while ago, right, Matthew? That we've been connected on there.
Yeah, it's been a while. I would say it's been at least a year, but it could be less. It feels like it's been a year.
It feels like it's been about a year since I've seen you. Matthew is very distinctive on Letterboxd because not only does he use emojis in his reviews, but he has them in his name too, which is something I don't often see. I know Cormac has like a crown in there, but a lot of people don't use them like in their near their avatar, like in their name. Yeah. So Matthew, what made you do this? I didn't really tell you I was going to ask you this, but what is, I'm curious. Is it just a stylistic choice that you enjoy?
Yeah, it's something that I picked up on other people, a few other people doing it on Letterboxd as I was starting out, like my Letterboxd friend Camelot or Cam at other times. So yeah, I think it's just, for a while it's just my name, and then I just thought, oh, I can do that. I can have emojis in there. So I just thought I'd have fun with that.
Just add some color, some personality.
Change it according to season or holidays.
And then you have them like interspersed in your reviews as well. Do you like, does this change the way that you write at all, or the way that you think when you're writing? I'm curious because I never do this, but I find it fascinating.
That is fascinating. It's a good question. It's something I've done ever since I started doing reviews on Letterboxd, and I think it just it's just an extension of my style of writing on Letterboxd, which is just doing what I feel like doing in my review. It's not just taking something from other people's reviews or doing what other people are doing. It's like my criteria for my reviews is, this is my review. So let me just put some emojis up here. Let me just put a fun comment here, an analytical thought there. Yeah.
So it feels very true to yourself. Like you feel like it's like your unique self-expression.
Yeah. And as long as I don't get in my own way, which sometimes I tend to do. I'm an overthinker at times. So I think that's always the goal for me. It's just to express myself and to get better at that with every review, just to peel back the layers.
Do you ever feel like does the type of movie that you're reviewing affect what you do? Like if you watch something that was like really serious or like a different genre, do you feel like you approach it differently, or is it the same every time?
Mostly it's the same. I will say, if it's a very serious movie or a movie that has really affected me emotionally, deeply, or just, something that kind of made me, speechless. Like recently, I watched The Whale, which I know is not a very universally liked movie. Like even those who like it say it's also kind of a depressing watch. So it was a lot to process, to say the least. I wanted to post something, but I just ended up doing a short review with 1, 2, maybe 3 sentences at the most, and no emojis at all. So I was just like, just wanted to let you know the 4 stars are on here because I do unironically like the movie, but I just can't say much of it right now
because it was just so impactful. Yeah, overwhelming.
Yeah, and I'm not saying it's a perfect movie either, but that's another discussion.
Right.
Yeah, it's just there's also some personal things that stirred up in my mind as well. So that's just something to be saved for another post down the line.
I understand. Like sometimes things are just so fresh that you feel like you almost have out of like a sort of self-protection, even like you have to kind of step away, feel the emotion, and then come back to it when you're a little bit more calm or logical about it.
Yes.
Yeah, I understand. I still have yet to see that movie. I wanted to watch it last week because I saw that it was for rent finally on Amazon. So I'm gonna have to do that sometime soon because that one Aronofsky is often polarizing, so it makes sense that would be that way. Because Mother, I absolutely loved, and a lot of people hardcore hated it. So,
I still need to check out more of his filmography. I've only seen The Whale, Pie, and
Pie.
I have not seen Mother or the rest of them.
Or like Black Swan.
No, I want to
Requiem.
I want to see the Red Shoes first, which I've now done. But Black Swan is closer.
Oh yeah, well, and he took a lot from. Have you heard of the movie Perfect Blue?
Perfect Blue.
It's an anime, not an anime, but I mean, it's a. God, I guess it is an anime. I'm going to get creamed for this.
I do know what you're talking about. I have not seen it. I've heard of it.
Okay, well, Perfect Blue is more like the Red Shoes is also, but Perfect Blue is like almost he took like actual scenes and plot directly from it. Like the director of Perfect Blue, I think it's Satoshi Kon, was kind of angry about how faithful it was actually. So that one might be a good one just so that you can be like, oh, well, that was kind of a little bit of a ripoff. Japanese animated psychological thriller. Yeah, Satoshi Kon. I wanted to make sure that I was right about that because I didn't want to get killed.
Performing a little, I mean, it's probably not going to happen in the near future, but I'm performing a little lineup for some point in the future. Perfect Blue, Black Swan, and there's another movie that was mentioned in the comment section for the Red Shoes. I forget what the name of it is, but yeah, so.
Yeah, if you want to be really sufficiently depressed and think about the plight of the female ballerina or actress. There you go.
There you go.
So
I'll prepare myself.
Yeah, and that one, Perfect Blue, is kind of a hidden gem too. So that's on topic. I'd recommend anybody see that one. That was very pivotal for me in terms of like I hadn't ever seen anything like it before at the time. Like hadn't really been exposed to anime at all or movies like Akira, like that have a depth to them like that. So it was really special. So Matthew, your movies today.
Mm-hmm.
I think what we'll do is we're going to go in reverse chronological order, if that's okay with you.
Okay.
So we're going to start with the more recent one, which was in 2012, Seeking a Friend for the End of the World, directed by and written by Lorene Scafaria.
Mm-hmm.
And this one stars Steve Carell and Keira Knightley, as well as an assortment of tons of people that we like recognize from NBC shows.
Yeah, I mean, we could tell you a few other names, but we also need to mention that everybody else in the movie has less than, like, no more than 5 minutes of screen time at the max. So,
right. Yeah. It's definitely feels kind of road trip in that sense. Like Away We Go is structured like that, where it's like people going from place to place and meeting supporting characters and then heading on to the next one, sort of like an Odyssey. Okay, so my first question to you is, how would you describe this movie to someone who hasn't seen it?
Oof. I would describe it as, well, I would mention the premise is Steve Carell plays this man. Well, okay, it's set against, so it's modern times, and people are told that an asteroid named Matilda is about to impact Earth and wipe out all life as we know it. And it's a comedy, and it's a romance of sorts, although I wouldn't put it in that box. I say it's kind of a weird love story in a way. It doesn't evolve as you might think. It's about relationships in general, about relationships between two strangers, or parents and children, or really a lot of things. I like that it's an apocalyptic movie. It's a movie about the end of days, the last 2 or 3 weeks of human life, but it's not an action movie. It doesn't even show you the asteroid. It's a movie that focuses on real people that you see in your life, and you kind of see different reactions to the last few days. Like, you see people who are just carrying on their life as if it's still the same. Some people who are depressed, and then there are people who just lose their minds in all sorts of ways. And it's so it's a, when you see Steve Carell as the lead, you think it might be a comedy, which to a certain degree it is, but it's more like a dramedy. It's a drama and a comedy. And in the case of one person that I talked to, I mentioned the name Steve Carell, and she's like, "Oh, I don't like Steve Carell." And
is she American?
No. Yeah, she is American. But I like Steve Carell, but I do kind of, it is his shtick about, just kind of yelling or something does get a little.
Oh my gosh. Tiring. How could anyone not love Steve Carell?
Love Steve Carell, especially after watching this movie, which, let me just say, I like in this movie, he is a sad sack, which I think he's funnier as, just in a more deadpan way. In the way he delivers his lines, and the fact that he does get moments to shine as a dramatic actor, but not in a way that's like Brando, yelling and getting angry. It's more like just playing it straight, really, and against other heavyweight players as well that we see in the movie.
Right.
Yeah. So
it's kind of in his like Dan in real life vibe.
Yeah.
Where he's, it kind of reminds me of like how Will Ferrell was in Stranger Than Fiction. Like whenever these guys sort of do serious roles, you just see a different side. And Steve Carell is definitely more like dark humor here than outrageous like Michael Scott.
Yeah, and I think this was the first, maybe. If I'm not mistaken, this was the first movie he worked on after finishing his work on The Office. I think this was
2012.
Yeah, 2012.
Yeah.
There's kind of like a Peter Sellers vibe in this movie, I think, and just how he plays it low key at times. I think something kind of like Being There, Peter Sellers, to me.
Oh yeah, yes. Did this remind you at all of Don't Look Now? That movie I thought sucked and I couldn't stand it, but it does have some similarities.
You mean Don't Look Up?
Don't Look Up, I'm sorry. Don't Look Now is fantastic. Sorry.
Well, that's a movie
Don't Look Up.
I'll look at now. I've seen it once and I'm not looking at it ever again.
Don't Look Up?
I look down upon Don't Look Up. Yeah.
Well played, Matthew. Well played. Yeah. Sorry. Apologies to everyone for Don't Look Now is a Roeg movie that's fantastic. I'm so sorry that I mixed those two up. But continue, Matthew. Yes. Don't Look Up. Yes. Awful.
If for anyone out there listening who likes the movie, power to you.
We're sorry.
We can be friends, but I don't hate the movie. I just did not care for it really at all.
But it's a similar setup. Where a comet is coming and like we're all gonna die. How would the culture react? You know.
So I first watched Seeking a Friend back in March of 2017. In fact, it's been almost 6 years since I first watched that movie. Wow. I watched Don't Look Up around the time it was first airing on Netflix. So that was
Netflix.
Netflix. That was like late December or early January. And Melanie Linsky pops up in that movie, and she's even in Seeking a Friend. So I think even before the movie, Don't Look Up ended, I'm just like, I kind of want to watch Seeking a Friend right now. After being not impressed that much with Don't Look Up, I watched Seeking a Friend later that day. And I even posted a little review saying I watched Don't Look Up today. And I just decided to watch Seeking a Friend.
What are the odds, Matthew? I didn't know this beforehand. Incredible correlation there. But I did think of that too. So they're definitely tertiary, but I do think Seeking a Friend is better. And it explores relationships in a more deliberate way, like you said.
Yeah, two different movies that has to be acknowledged, but just Don't Look Up, I find kind of condescending, maybe intelligent, but just very smug and just kind of looking down on people. Where Seeking a Friend, it's like it's disgusting. It's set against the most hopeless situation you can imagine, but there's something comforting about the movie as well. Just like it's more of a human eye to eye experience in my eyes.
So why do you consider this a hidden gem? Like what about it? Like why do you think it's more underseen or that it wasn't popular even though it has so many famous people in it and it's not too old. I mean, it's not really an old film.
No, but
yeah. What about it to you translates to that?
Well, I know that first of all, it was opened during the summer of 2012. If you're releasing a small, like $10 million budget movie, in the midst of like a season of $200 million blockbuster movies, you're going to get lost in the shuffle. I mean, that was the summer that saw The Amazing Spider-Man, which debuted Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man. You have Marvel's The Avengers, The Dark Knight Rises. I could tell you the name of the Disney Pixar movie, but why tell you the name when I could just tell you the brand? And when Seeking a Friend debuted during its opening weekend, it was beat by a couple of movies. It was beat by a movie called Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter or Slayer, one of those two, and by that Disney Pixar movie. And the name of that one was Brave, which is not considered one of the greatest but of the Pixar catalog, but that was the fact that it's a Pixar movie is enough to trump over the smaller movies.
Right.
And I think also the mixed reception from people at that time discouraged people from seeing it as well. I mean, it certainly did for me back when I was determining what movies I see based on scores, just based on Rotten Tomatoes scores. It wasn't just it has like a between 50 and 60% on Rotten Tomatoes then and now, and it's the same with audiences as well. I mean, so it was rotten on both cases. And the overall feeling from the scores was like, well, there were some good things in here, but ultimately it's just a disappointment. Like some people were really
harsh.
Yeah, some people were harsh. Some were just feeling underwhelmed or disappointed by the third act of the movie, which is not the case for me. So there's that, and the Rotten scores did keep me from watching it for a certain time until hearing. I was listening to the song "The Air That I Breathe" by the Hollies on YouTube one night. I scrolled down and looked at the comments, and people were saying, "Oh, I seen Seeking a Friend for the End of the World. It used this grade," and I'm just like, I'm intrigued. And I saw it was free on Netflix at the time, and that was the one thing that got me to just watch it the next day. And I just want to say, Seeking a Friend was like the big movie that put this idea through my stubborn head that I should never let scores just keep me from watching a movie or to make me go see something. It's like what's important is your own judgment, your own call. I just wasn't expecting myself to be affected the way I was from a movie that had this underwhelming reception. So it's an important movie to me in that way as well.
I completely understand that too. Like where you can sort of allow the popular opinion to sway you, or it could even be like in our case where we're in a community of cinephiles who have really strong opinions like we do. And a lot of times I think more often than not, what happens is not that people are undermining, but they're overhyping. And then I see it and I'm like, oh, I feel bad that I don't like this. That happens more often to me than the inverse, like what you're describing, where it's like somebody says something sucks and you're like, actually, this is really good. Yeah. Usually it's the opposite, but and then I understand.
But I do have some of those cases where I'm just feeling underwhelmed by something while other people are just like, wow, 5 stars. And I'm like, I wish folks. Yeah.
Yep. I totally understand that. And it also comes down to trusted sources, you know, like finding reviewers, or like you and I both really love Ebert. And so if you can find friends or reviewers, critics that you trust who kind of align with your taste, that's a little bit more of an assurance that, okay, like I'm more apt to probably like this than not. But still, I mean, sometimes some things just hit you at different times.
Yeah, and you know, just with any movie, good, bad, or somewhere in the middle, it's a risk to take it either way. You know, I know some people are just, they might make a big deal out of certain other movies, and I have too. But you know, it's a risk either way you take it, and you can just watch however much of the movie you want. You can turn it off after 10, or if you're a completist, you can see it all the way through and say, hey, I've seen it. This is what I think. You know, you'll live.
So is this one, so Seeking a Friend for the End of the World, is this a movie that you recommend to anybody? Like, do you feel confident in saying everyone should see this, no matter who you are?
Yes. But to a certain age group, perhaps. I think if you're...
Oh, well, yeah.
I would say if you're at least 14 or 15, then yeah, check it out. Or probably better if you're an adult, like if you're 18. You know, if you have been out in the world, been out of school, and you know, experienced reality, I think that will hit harder for some people as well.
Right.
So yeah, I do recommend it to people because it does kind of have something. It has a little bit of everything: comedy, drama. Not action, but I mean, there is a riot. But it's not Armageddon. It's definitely far from that.
Right.
But it's also something I want to say is I realized recently that this is kind of like this movie's like a classic Hollywood movie from the 20th century that is living in the modern world. Like, it's a movie that really feels like it has a story. Like, I think with Steve Carell and the rest of the cast members, if you were looking at the credits, you think, oh, this is going to be like, I don't know, Bridesmaids, you know, esque movie where people are just exchanging jokes to each other, you know, I don't know.
Kind of sketchy, like SNL.
Yes. Thank you. So they might expect something like that, but, you know, with Seeking a Friend, there's clearly a lot of thought put into it, and I've noticed new things every time I watch it, you know, visually or, you know, on the level of its writing. So there's something delicate about it, and in a way, I think I haven't read any source confirming this, but I'm willing to think that the writer and director Lorraine Scafaria had seen Casablanca and is a fan of the movie because I kind of detect some similarities. It's about, you know, the guy, Steve Carell, is trying to help the girl, Penny, played by Keira Knightley, get to a place where she can board a plane. And the story is set against this, you know, kind of crazy situation. You know, so I think, and there are other similarities, but
parallels.
But I'm going to stop myself there from saying too much. But yeah, I think there's kind of this classic movie making feel to it in the style of filming to a degree and the writing as well. So, yeah.
Yeah. Seeking a Friend for the End of the World.
Seeking a Friend?
See it. Seeking a Friend. Yeah. See it. Put some emojis in your review in honor of Matthew, if you do. But I had seen that one before, and so this was a rewatch. I definitely liked it more this time. There's something kind of special about the ending I felt differently about. So I'm appreciative to you that I got to see it again, Matthew. Okay, so now your second one is 1998's Dark City, directed by Alex Proyas, and this movie is fantastic. I watched this probably a decade ago, maybe a little longer, because it was on Ebert's Great Movies list. And definitely a hidden gem because not a lot of people have heard of it. It came out very shortly before The Matrix, has a lot of Matrix-esque elements to it. I think they even use some of the same sets and the same soundstage as them. Okay, so if you like The Matrix, which most people do, this is definitely for you, but I'll let Matthew sell it. Go ahead, Matthew.
So, yeah.
I love it so much.
That you brought up some of the stuff. So, when I first reached out to you, I mentioned the idea of watching Dark City. I reached out to you a month before its 25th anniversary, which was February 27th. So it had already turned 25 years old on February 27th of this year. And and by the time it came out, just to go ahead and answer your question of why it's considered a hidden gem in the first place. Mm-hmm. Number one, it's an original movie, but when you see it, you think by the cinematography and some of the action, you think it was based on a graphic novel or a comic book. Yeah, like Sit City or 300 or something. But no, this was a thoroughly original piece of writing for the screen. And in contrast to other box office failures like The Rocketeer or Dick Tracy or Alita Battle Angel as a more recent example, those movies did have a fan base to them prior to their releases, even though they didn't make a lot of money. But Dark City, and it not being based on any source material, it was harder to sell it to people. And it was released in February of 1998, and by that time, a little movie called Titanic was still making the rounds in theaters. So there's that. James Cameron, wiping everybody out even then.
Unstoppable
force.
Yeah.
This was really, the internet was still in its infancy, so their word of mouth couldn't spread fast enough. But
it's got some famous people in it. It's Rufus Sewell is the main character.
But Rufus Sewell. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. But we gotta talk about him real quick.
Okay, go ahead.
He's a great actor. I love him in this. But I think he's one of the reasons why people haven't checked this movie out, because they recognize some of the actors on the poster. Jennifer Connelly,
William Hurt.
Yeah, William Hurt, Kiefer Sutherland. Yeah. But Rufus Sewell, that's the kind of actor people might be familiar with, but they just don't know where they've seen him. And just to kind of let people know, he's usually playing the jerk or the bad guy in other movies. He's in A Knight's Tale, which I know you've seen, but I haven't. He played Jasper in The Holiday. I like to say it the way Kate Winslet says it. Jasper. Yeah. He was in the M. Night Shyamalan movie Old, which was released recently. Yeah. So he's been in some notable projects. But I think
he's kind of a Shakespearean actor too. He was in Kenneth Branagh's Hamlet as Fortinbras. I've seen him in a bunch of British, where it's like an all British cast, not just these are kind of American movies. But yeah, you're right. I think that was the same issue with The Rocketeer. Is that Campbell was The Rocketeer, and he wasn't somebody as famous as like Harrison Ford was for Raiders, or you don't have like a big name for the main guy, even though I think Rufus was perfect casting. But you're right, it would have been hard to sell.
Yeah, but it works. But it's a casting choice that works very well for the movie, because number one, Rufus Sewell is still kind of well, not really a big name compared to the likes of, say, Johnny Depp or Tom Cruise, names that were considered for the role at the time. So when you see this movie, I'm kind of getting ahead of myself, but yeah, I mean, it works. When you see the movie, you'll understand. But when you see Rufus Sewell in the movie, it works because you don't know who this guy is. And his character is an amnesiac, so even he doesn't know who he is.
He doesn't know who he is.
Yeah.
Correct. Which is always a great way to start a movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like Born Identity, Memento, where the guy's like, doesn't know who they are exactly. And they're trying to figure it out. Literally, though. Who am I? Yeah.
And so, yeah, since not many people know about this actor, even they're wondering, okay, who is this guy? But even though, and even those who do recognize him will probably remember him as like this bad guy in some other movies, like the ones I mentioned. And so when people say that he's suspected of murder in this movie, people are wondering, well, he kind of has that look. Is he the killer? He could be the killer. Where you don't really get that idea when you normally see like
Tom Cruise
or Tom Hanks in a movie. And it's like, no, he's not going to be.
No, he can do no wrong.
No wrong at all.
No, that's a great point, and I think that you're right. I think just like Seeking a Friend, you picked two movies where the timing of their release really was very significant as far as why they were underseen, and even today kind of got lost in because The Matrix became a whole franchise.
Yeah,
So, and then Dark City was IP, but it didn't go anywhere. But then I think it's kind of considered a cult classic at this point. Yeah. Like it does have somewhat of a following now.
Absolutely. And Roger Ebert, our idol, I think he's a big part of that because I mean he named this movie the best movie of its year, above the likes of Saving Private Ryan and The Big Lebowski and many other things. So and he even recorded commentaries for the movies, both of its DVD releases. So yeah.
So how did you see Dark City then? I know I saw it because it was on the great movies list. Did you see it because of that too?
Yeah.
Okay. And was it fairly recently?
No, I first watched it was like back in 2016 or early 2017. But I think it was before I saw Seeking a Friend for the first time as well. And I rented it on YouTube at that time. And I didn't know at the time it was showing the director's cut version, which we could probably get into at some point, but
that's the one I saw recently, rewatched.
Yeah, and I'll go ahead and say the main difference between the theatrical cut and the director's cut is basically the director's cut not including the opening narration, which the studio insisted that director Alex Proyas put in to not have the audience confused early on. It's kind of the point for the mystery to sort of get you on the edge a little bit. And some additional footage, but not like whole scenes, just little shots within many other scenes throughout. 11 minutes total, I think. So I watched that version first. Really liked it. Not quite loved it, but really liked it enough that I watched it again before the rental expired. And somewhere down the line, people were asking, my family was asking me what I wanted for Christmas, and I was just like, well, I'm just Dark City on DVD. I don't care if it's Blu-ray or regular, just make sure the aspect ratio is preserved and such.
Nice.
So I have the DVD here, and it's the theatrical cut, but
right.
I've watched it at least 7 or 8 times since then. So a ceaselessly rewatchable movie in my case.
And that is a great sell for it too. Is that if something is endlessly rewatchable and you can get different things from it each time. I also have to say, Matthew, like the cinematography and the lighting in this movie, ironic, because it's dark. It's Dark City, so there's not a lot of light here. But it is just exquisite. And like you said, one of the most remarkable things about it is that it is original. And you do get that sense the whole time, like I'm watching something that must be from a graphic novel. I even thought that this time when I was watching it, that it's like, this has to be, because it's so meticulous and detailed. It seems like it's following a blueprint, of some sort.
And before somebody comes at us with, oh, this is not original, yes, I know that Terry Gilliam's Brazil was released over a decade prior. And another thing I think what made this movie overlooked at its time was that it was part of this trend in movies back in the 90s where the main characters are suspicious of the world around them, that something's not quite right, something is fabricated, like the Truman Show, the 13th
Truman Show.
Yeah, so which came out in the same year as Dark City, actually. So, yeah, and that has a more famous lead actor in this movie. So.
Jim Carrey.
Yep.
And that was Peter Weir, too.
Yep, Peter.
So it was a big name director as well.
Yep.
I did think of that when I watched it. I was like, oh, yeah, this is similar to Truman Show.
Yeah. So,
but way cooler. I mean, those, you can hardly even compare them in terms of the atmosphere or the feeling about it. It's so different. And they're saying different things as well.
Yeah.
This is more of a noir.
Yes. Yes. And The Matrix does use, it was filmed on some of the same sets and, of course, some of the same, kind of the same lighting in some spots, but it should be mentioned that these are two different creatures. That The Matrix is more of an action movie with philosophical ideas, but it's more inspired by the cyberpunk aesthetic and Asian cinema, Hong Kong kung fu action. Where Dark City, it's a mystery noir piece, or neo noir, as some
neo noir.
Yeah, and even taking some inspiration from German expressionist horror films like The Cabinet, Dr. Caligari, or the work of Fritz Lang in Metropolis. A lot of those classic movies, and the fact that there is some action in the movie, but it's more about the mystery and atmosphere.
It's also got kind of a sci-fi feel with the strangers too.
Absolutely.
And the sort of underworld part of it feels not, I would say, more sci-fi than horror to me.
Yeah.
I
would definitely agree. It's not a horror movie, but it definitely has like visual elements of horror. But it's definitely more science fiction. But it'd be unfair to put it in that sci-fi box, so to speak.
Yeah, I agree completely. And I think that if you like any of the movies that Matthew and I have mentioned, this will go well with you. And I think it's honestly superior to a bunch of them, even though they're of the same ilk, philosophically or existentially, however you want to say that. I mean, there's a scene with Kiefer Sutherland where he's talking about identity and who you are and what they're trying to get at, what the villains are trying to do, and it's very compelling and thought provoking.
Yeah.
So it's a heady movie.
It is, and I know I keep bringing up various reasons sprinkled throughout why this is overlooked, but I think another thing is that excuse me, I can barely speak, but I think some people, at least regular movie watchers, might be hesitant to watch it, or maybe they just aren't that interested in seeing the movie because, or recommending it to people, because I think it's more cerebral than it is emotional, which is a turnoff for some people, and that's fine. I mean, I can respect that, but at the same time, it's just so exhilarating. And it's like I've always thought, and I just want to say, even if you're confused during the first time you watch this, I still see the experience, at least on an initial viewing, as similar to a crazy carnival ride, or something like a trip through the fun house where you have these trick mirrors and rotating hallways in a, believe it or not, museum. The second time you watch it, you understand more of the story. you pick up on certain clues and things are becoming clear. And it might take you another viewing to solve that as well. And the other time you watch it, it's just to appreciate every loving detail that goes into creating this. And it's wonderful. It's just truly wonderful.
It really is. And it's Jennifer Connelly at her peak hotness in the 90s. I stand J-Con till the end. I would always say, if that is the only reason that you see something, that's a good enough reason.
Yeah,
because she's in it.
Yeah, I love the intro.
Oh yeah, she's just drop dead gorgeous, always. Okay, now Matthew. So those are his two films: Seeking a Friend for the End of the World and Dark City. Please see them for him. They're great. And Matthew had pointed out to me, I just did this, but that he wanted me to show my book that I have. So the best film that you've never seen is the one that I'm reading. I'm watching a film a week from this. So I've done After Dark, My Sweet, and then Joe versus the Volcano, which I had already loved and seen. And then this week I watched The Swimmer. And the reason I did, so this book, he's interviewing directors and asking them, like, what movie do you consider your hidden gem? And Alex Proyas picked The Swimmer. So that's what I did for this one. So it's a double whammy. I took the director of one of your films. That was his hidden gem. So you got to make it a double feature just to be. They're wildly different. And The Swimmer's kind of a crazy film, crazy strange with Burt Lancaster, but that was his recommendation. So had to keep the symmetry going.
All right. Well played. Well,
yeah. So, Matthew, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for coming on.
No problem. My pleasure too. Thank you.
Yeah. And thank you for choosing good movies for the watch list listers out there. And we'll see you at the movies.